This is a house that I've been complaining to the city, to the neighborhood center, the Bloomfield-Garfield Corporation, because I know they're trying to improve Garfield, build up houses, but they need to do something about these houses that are in, making other people's life unsafe to be in.
And the city has over 30 homes that we know of in Garfield that are vacant at this time. Some are in the process of being demoed, and some are still in the process of being inspected and looked at. But overall, our vacant housing problem is 150 houses plus in this tiny little neighborhood.
Nina's task, as you probably might guess, is to work with Teresa, the Garfield resident, on the short-term solutions to the problem with the vacant house next door to her. Eventually, we'll see that that house does get demolished by the city and a new party wall gets built in its place alongside Teresa's house. But the longer-term strategy has to be something more comprehensive, and that is to try to introduce some new housing development to the block that will complement the existing pattern of housing on the street without disrupting the economic stability of the street. So our plan is to eventually build as many as 9 new single-family homes on the street. Initially, they will be rentals to families at 60% or less of median household income. And we want to be able to turn around the trend towards abandonment and disinvestment that has been very strong in that block over the last 35 to 40 years.
But it still, again, leaves me with the high utility bills for the winter. And I wonder why we can't get nobody out here in Garfield to take down things like this. But I can't go to Squirrel Hill or Mount Lebanon and see houses like this.
So between 2000 and 2010, we lost 3,000 people out of the community. And that created a lot of empty houses. There's a lot of vacant property in Garfield. We're facing over 150 homes that are vacant. Crime rates are down, but the abandoned houses themselves are creating a whole other public safety issue of their own.
If you look up in the top window where there's no window, if you come to the other side, you can see where all the ceiling's falling. You can see it from the inside, look in this window, and you can see the sky. The roof's been like that since 2008. We all work together. During the summers, we would all get up here. We would pass tools around to keep everybody's lawns cut, their hedges cut, keep the leaves up. But most of them have passed on. I want something done with this property so I can get something done with this property, and my utility bills will stop skyrocketing during the winter months. Because I mean, our gas bills were coming in over $1,000 a month.
Well, when I look at properties like this, I really start to worry about the children in the neighborhood and their safety, being able to just walk to the park. You know, like there's a TV here, the weeds are all overgrown. I look at it and I think about the people who live next door to it. Like their homes are beautiful and they have to, there's probably rodents inside of this house, and that would cause an issue for them. And that's really hard when you're talking about quality of life. And that's what I see is like, does the city care about us? And I imagine that's what the neighbors think. When they're dealing with a property over decades, they start, even if the city is doing their due diligence, the process takes so long that a neighbor could start to feel like they're forgotten.
I just want to know how come it's taking so long. Because if I read this article that's in this paper from October of last year about this house, they'll understand how long I've been complaining to the city. And then we had a police that come up here, they go in there, they're all wearing gloves, and then they come out and they throw the gloves down on the street. We have children that go up and down the street. How do they know these kids aren't going to pick them up because of the colors of the gloves are black and orange, which are Halloween colors, and they might want them for costumes? How do they know what the gloves have been on? But I don't think the police should be leaving this kind of stuff. They should have some kind of bag to drop these gloves in, because we don't know if it's what kind of drug was on it or what kind of blood they got that's on these gloves, that they need to be disposed of, not thrown in the street where children can pick them up. And I've been living here over 30 years. But this is not how this street was. We used to have community days where we block off the street and have different events. We had a neighbor that used to always do Mother Day because their mother lived on the street. And then we just did other summer things on the street. We used to put volleyball nets up here and play in the street when all the kids that were on the street. At that time, we had a lot of kids. Now we don't have that many kids.
For this project to happen, we're going to need an allocation of tax credits from the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. That's a very competitive process and can take more than a year to secure. We'll also need some funding assistance from the Urban Redevelopment Authority, and we may even have to rely on foundation support in the end. But if we're successful with the project, the street that Teresa remembers from decades ago could be the street that she sees in the future. A street where neighbors are much more hospitable to one another, and the kinds of issues that she's been having on the street eventually fade away.
I used to always say, and I told all these new people that's come into this neighborhood, that I thought I lived on the best street in Garfield, because we didn't at that time have the drugs, we didn't have the gangs up here. The neighbors all got along, whether they were black, whether they were white. This street always has been a mixed street, and probably will always be a mixed street. So, like I said, there's a mixture of people. No one's better than anyone else because we live together and we get along together. Teresa Johnson, been here over 30 years, and at one time, this was the best neighborhood. I raised 4 children in this neighborhood. I can't have my children up with my grandchildren because some of the new things that are in the neighborhood close to my residence.
One of the reasons why we have events like the one today is that to undertake projects like this requires hundreds of staff hours well before any revenue is derived from the project itself. So for us to be able to pay for the staff at the BGC, we need the kind of corporate and individual donors to step up and help the BGC get projects like this to implementation.
So the BGC is really working to make sure that we're on the city's radar, because we want there to be a better care for our community. We want to make sure it's active, that our streets are being paved and that money is being allocated to tearing down houses in 2019, and that our parks are kept beautiful and that our sidewalks are passable, so that the quality of life for our community members is good. That's what the main goal is, for everyone to have a nice street to live on and be safe.